The day the sea stood still. No one forgot the day the sea stood still. One moment, the Israelites were trapped, waves in front, Pharaoh's army behind. The next, the wind rose, Moses lifted his staff, and something beyond human understanding happened. The waters parted, not in ripples, not in puddles, but in towering walls of blue, rising higher than trees, curling like glass, frozen in midair. A dry path stretched before them where only ocean had been. Tamar, just a boy then, held his breath as he stepped onto the seabed. Fish darted behind shimmering water walls, and the sky overhead blazed gold with sunlight. Around him, thousands moved forward, not with fear, but with wide eyes and open mouths. Behind them, the sea waited, still, calm, obedient. And when the last sandal stepped out of the path, God let the waters fall back into place, not in chaos, but in glory. Pharaoh's army was no more. The people were free. That night, Tamar sat beneath a sky full of stars, and for the first time in his life he knew what awe felt like. But the wonder wasn't over. The next morning, a tall pillar of cloud stood before the camp. It wasn't smoke. It moved. It led them. By day, they followed the cloud across the sands. By night, the cloud turned to fire. Not wild or frightening, but warm, bright, watchful. Even in the deepest darkness, God was with them. Weeks later, they arrived at the foot of Mount Sinai. The mountain was wrapped in cloud and light, like it was holding something holy inside. Tamar watched as Moses climbed higher and higher, disappearing into glory. And there, God spoke. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He gave instructions filled with wisdom and love. Commandments written not just for rules, but for relationship. A way for His people to live in peace, to love Him, and to love one another. When Moses came down, his face shone with God's light. It wasn't just sunburn. It wasn't from the climb. It was as if heaven had touched him. The people stepped back in awe. Tamar leaned forward. "Look at him," he whispered. "He's been with God." And the wonder continued. When they hungered, manna fell like dew. Sweet, white flakes they gathered every morning. It tasted like honey and hope. When they thirsted, Moses struck a rock and water gushed out, cool and clear, enough for every family. When they rested, the fire stood guard. When they journeyed, the cloud moved forward like a promise. Tamar grew up walking under that pillar. And as he grew, so did his understanding. This wasn't just a rescue story. It was a love story. A story of a God who didn't stay distant, but led His people with His presence, fed them with His own hand, and spoke to them through a man named Moses. Years later, Tamar sat with his own children by a quiet fire in the desert. He told them what he had seen, not legends, not fables, but wonders his own eyes had beheld. And when his youngest daughter asked, "Was it scary, Papa?" he smiled and shook his head. "No," he said softly. "It was beautiful. It was holy. It was the day we saw that the power of God isn't just strong, it's good, and it walks with those who follow Him."